Hi, I'm Old Sneelock. Welcome to another episode of Old Sneelock's Workshop. I can go ahead and finish the assembly of this tank to the engine. There's a filter screen for the end of the hose. See, they just cut off nice and square. I want to be careful not to crack that barb off the fitting there. Now, I couldn't find anything telling me what the length of this hose was. And since the hose that was in there was broken, I'm going to look at this thing and say, okay, where can this go? How long can this be? And still be able to move around in there, because it really has to be able to sit in the bottom of the tank. This is the fill spout, so that's basically the top when you're orienting the saw. But when you're using the saw can be like this, it can be like this, it can be like this, this, even like this. And you want to have the end of this thing in the oil all the time. So you don't want to have a full tank every minute either, because if you have to have a full tank every minute, then it kind of defeats the purpose. Looks like about that long. It's going to let it hook onto that hose barb, and when the tank moves, this will have room to flop around in there. It'll be able to sit down at the bottom, because my hose barb is up here in the corner. Let's see, which corner is it? This is top here. So hose barb is up here in this corner, and I want to have this thing be able to move around inside the fuel, inside the oil tank, and sit in the oil. So about this long. And if I'm wrong, I'm going to either starve out the thing and I have to put more oil in it all the time, or I'll have to take another piece of this hose and replace that one. Looking at it, that's going to lay down into the bottom of that tank pretty well, and it can go this direction up as high as the base of the tank. I think I'm going to be able to reach pretty much every area of that tank with it sitting like that. Now, after 40 years, I'm going to have to buy another tube of this, I think, after this job, because I think this might just use it up. Be good if it does, because this tube is getting rather old. Last time I used this stuff was on the head gasket. For the Farmall B. Because after I welded it up, even though I did a very reasonable job of welding it within my capability, there was always the chance that I was going to get a little leak. Well, you know what? I didn't hardly use any of this thing. It's good for another 20 years. Because if you're going to invest all the time to take this thing apart and clean it all and then put it back together again, you might as well make sure that when you're done, to the best of your ability, it's going to work up to and exceeding your expectations. And that's just a matter of persistence and patience. There. Now this goes back on like this, and because I didn't take off this shroud, which I might have been better served to do so, there. A lot of cranking. A 1/4 inch drive probably would be handy right here, because then I could do a small ratchet in there, because 1/3 of a turn, 120 degrees, means I have to do this 3 times for every revolution. Fortunately, the bolts are not too long. They are longer than what you would have to have in steel, though. Remember, a threaded hole in steel, you need to have at least 1.5 times the diameter of the bolt thread engagement to make sure that you've got a good grip in there and it's not going to strip out. Now, if it's a nut, the nut can be thinner. Now, why is that? Because you can replace the nut. If the nut strips out, you just put on a different nut. If you have a hole and you strip out the hole, then you're going to have to go through all the gyrations that I did to patch the 3 holes in this thing. Okay, they're up snug. Not tight, but snug. Draw them up snug. There. That's good. Now, having this cylinder open, it's kind of bothersome. So I'm going to put the exhaust on next. Now, since I don't want to have these rattling out, you'd think that I could put Loctite on. Loctite's only good up to about 300 degrees, and this exhaust system is going to get a lot hotter than that. There, exhaust system's on.
Next we mount the oil pump, but first we got to clean it.
I don't want to immerse this, I just want to wipe off the outside. Make sure I got this gasket surface clean. And just in general clean up the outside. I mean, it's not necessary to do that, but it does make me feel better about the job that I'm doing on it. And that's one of the more important things about doing this kind of work, is you want to be able to feel good about what you did when you're done. You want to be able to look at it and say, yeah, I did that, and not have anybody say, well, it looked like crap. Even though I can almost guarantee, other than somebody looking at a video, no one else will see this, because it's going to be one of the tools that I use and don't loan out. Unless, of course, I give it to my son, and then I don't worry about it, because I know he takes care of things quite often better than I do. And I don't know if you see this, but every time I open this thing, I pour it out and then I put the cap back on. You don't want to tip that over on your bench and have that stuff flowing into places you don't control. Not that there's much in your shop that's going to set it on fire, but it only takes once, and then all the rest of it really means nothing. Now this is a little felt piece that goes on there, very similar to what there is in the gas tank. And this slides down in like that. Gasket still in place? Yep, we're okay on that. Then I put this screw in. Always want to start all the screws before you tighten any of them. You can run them down, just don't tighten them. That way, that last screw doesn't get out of position. All 4 screws are down. I'll tighten them up using a crisscross pattern. Try not to warp the pump body. I don't think it matters much. It doesn't have any mechanical parts. It's got a diaphragm, but Well, the mechanical pump is pumping. You can hear the sounds of it moving air in and out. I don't know if the diaphragm is working though. That's going to be found out later, but it is easily accessible. I don't have to strip the engine down to get to it. There, clip in place. That's all good. I want to set the air gap on the magneto. With the screw started, I put a business card. In between the flywheel and the laminated plates. And that should set my air gap just about right. At least it does on a Briggs & Stratton engine. Can't guarantee it does on a chainsaw engine. But when you don't have anything to work with, you go with what you got. Guess and by golly. I just know that I can't have it touching and rubbing on the thing. I just snug these up. I want them snug, but I don't want to break that bolt and I don't want to strip those threads. There. Now, we spin this around, and that should get that out. A little heat. Let that hose just grow just like I wanted it so I could slide it on there. No harm to the hose. Everything's good. And this goes in there, and I'll cut it off when I know it's got enough to reach the gas tank. And Now we're just about where we were when we started. Well, it didn't want to cooperate there at the last, but managed to go. Now, as long as it takes in gas and puts it into the into the engine, I think I'm all set. Saddle linkage moves. Choke moves. Oil pump moves. Cover goes on, pulls over. I think I'm good to go. Well, I'm happy to say the Timber Bear is back together again. It's not running yet, but it's got all the pieces and parts on it. Hopefully, sometime tomorrow, I'll dump some gas in it and we'll get it running. If you have any suggestions for a new video, questions about today's video, or any of the other videos on the channel, just drop a note in the comments. You know I read them all. Thanks for watching. This has been a long project. I appreciate you bearing along. Lots of other things I could have been doing, but I really wanted to finish this one.
This video is not to be viewed by anyone under the age of 13 in the U.S. or 16 in the European Union, without the express written permission of the parents or legal guardians of the underage person. Such written permission must be on file at the local government entity in charge of enforcing the rules and regulations established by the FTC. Anyone violating these terms is admitting by default that they hold harmless the owners and operators of this channel. Any and all questions should be addressed to your local branch of the FTC.